that leads us on to probably our next part of the podcast, which is transfers in general. So obviously it's silly season where everybody is linked with Liverpool at the moment. Everybody's linked with Manchester United and, you know, the other top teams. And we'll start off with the obvious one. Obviously, Man City have signed Haaland. You know, they're obviously, well, I say obviously, they finished top of the league, so they're the best team in the league. They went on and, you know, addressed their problem at number 9. How do you see the rest of their transfer business, and what do you think that signing will bring to them? Do you think it'll take anything away from them? You know, do you think of how many midfielders they were playing for it with?
Yeah, I mean, you'd imagine he's going to play. He's going to be playing down the middle. There'll be none of that false 9 stuff anymore. They've got 90 plus points. They can't get much more. You know what I mean? That's it's not like you're going to get him when you get 10 more points. They're getting pretty much the maximum points. Liverpool are pretty much getting. Both those teams are getting about as much, because you're gonna lose 1 or 2 games in the season. You know, but when we were, you know, 20 years ago, it used to be like you can lose 4 or 5 games and that was it. Now, if you lose 2, you're thinking, oh, you know, we're out of it. So they're not going to get much more points than what they've got. Haaland's obviously brilliant.
It's draws as well, isn't it? It's draws now as well as losses.
That's it. A draw is pretty much a loss now.
Because we drew 8 games, didn't we?
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah. So the thing with Haaland is, and for those, I mean, I'm probably going to go into a bit of technical detail here. So Haaland is a brilliant centre forward in transition. So what I mean, when the opposition have got the ball on counter-attacks is high, and he's just pace and power bang on. If you watch Man City play, they're going to have all the ball. He will score a load of goals at the back post. Klopp said it perfectly. He's just going to stand there at second post and will score goals, because that's how this guy get wide players coming in and bang. There's not going to be many goals for him to sort of, you know, played through and go 1v1 with a keeper. They'll all be cutbacks and finishes. Now, they've bought a player there who is fine with that. I mean, his hold-up play is questionable. For those who are saying scores goals, absolutely brilliant. But a lot of the times, the ball will have to go on. With Man City, the ball, it's retention of the ball as well. So they've got to keep it. They've got to keep it all the time. Whereas Haaland, it's like the ball's got to stick. And I'd say his hold-up play, Lukaku, but slightly better. Do you know what I mean? That's what I want to say. And it's better than Lukaku. Obviously, Miles better than Lukaku. His goals are beyond doubt. But there's the question mark as well. You know, he hasn't played in a top league. There are question marks on him. He's a young player. There's a lot more question marks on him than answers at the moment. I think the fact that he's got all the goals in the world and what he's done for Bundesliga, unbelievable, brilliant. You watch Dortmund play, everything's in transit. You know what I mean? His goals are in transition. You go through highlights reel of his goals. Everything's in transition. So he's going to have to change his game, and then it's that adapting period as well. I mean, Grealish obviously came in for 100 million, and he's been probably one of the flops of the season. Do you know what I mean? So there's question marks on how he's going to adapt, how that's going to work. I mean, to be fair, it's Man City that they can write it off. It don't work. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's great for the league to have him in. But yeah, I'm interested to see how he fits in, how he plays for them, how he adapts to the style of Man City. And when he realises that there aren't many counter-attacking opportunities at Man City. So yeah, there's a few question marks, but phenomenal player, and what he's done great so far at a really young age. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how it works out for him.
I totally agree with you. Like, it's not as easy as just to say a world-class team, world-class forwards. It's going to be all better roses. You know, you think of likes of Shevchenko, Torres. You know, when they went to Chelsea. You know, it's not the players, it's just the system. It just doesn't suit them. And then in other teams, they're banging in goals. It's just like you said, Dortmund, the way of playing, it is not the same as a City. And when you were describing Haaland earlier, just there, I was thinking Lukaku straight away. Now, obviously, Inter, they had a certain style of play, and it was a lot more akin a counter-attacking style of play where he would just be bullying defenders when it was like a 1v1 situation. It's going to be rare that Haaland's going to be in that situation. It's going to be more of, you know, he's going to be pinning defenders. He's got, like you say, he's going to be playing the 6-yard box, and it's going to be tap ends. It's not going to be none of that, counter-attacking play. But it also, in not having that false 9, it kind of takes away an element of control in the game. So in the likes of, when you're playing against the likes of Chelsea, for example, they may not necessarily have all the possession that they may usually have, because Erling Haaland's not going to be the same as what a Gabriel Jesus or Kevin De Bruyne, who's dropping deep. So that element of control might be slightly different as well. So they may not necessarily have, you'd say City, if you want to go really technical, would probably have 70 to 75% of the ball in the season. That might go down a few percent, and it might leave them open for other teams to have a bit more joy on the attack. So I don't necessarily see it going 100% City's way. I don't think it's going to be any kind of a foregone conclusion, because, as you said, there's only a certain amount of points you can do, and I don't foresee City going 100 points like previous seasons. The likes of Chelsea, that they're improving. Tottenham are only going to get better under Conte. So yeah, whilst I do see that as an amazing signing, and I can't believe there weren't too many other clubs that were up for Haaland. It just seemed like they kind of had a bit of a free run at him.
I felt the thing with that, the reason why they had a free run is Real Madrid were obviously the other ones, but Real Madrid didn't go for him because they were that confident they were going to get Mbappe. And then Mbappe has obviously pulled the plug, and now Real Madrid are left with Anthony Rudiger. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no strikers, but we've got Rudiger. So they've obviously, and they've just been sort of, what's to say, the floor's been pulled, the rug's been pulled off under their feet, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? They were all set, and then it's just, you can see why that's happened and why they had a freedom. So again, circumstances fell for that, and the fact that they can, pay him whatever, $500,000 plus after tax. It's just, the wage is just bonkers. But and how they get by financial, but that's just a different podcast now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a knock-on effect. You mentioned Mbappe, and I just want to know your thoughts about obviously the money that went into the Mbappe contract. Now, again, people say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. You're not paying it or anything like that." But the reality is, it does have a knock-on effect. For example, Liverpool were in for, for what I understand, is it Tuchemani? He was one of Liverpool's top targets, from what I gather. Now it's a case of, because Real Madrid cannot get Mbappe, and now they have to go after somebody else. So now they're putting together a package for Tuchemani, and that's drove up the price, where it's like Liverpool probably won't go near that. And now Liverpool set the targets on somebody else's target, and then there's a knock-on effect. So I was just wondering your opinion on the Mbappe thing, and how you think its effect on football as overall.
I think if we sort of go back, and PSG and Man City will always get the label, and it's not a label, it's because it's just truth. It's the fact. Do you know what I mean? They're run by states. They fiddle the books, and when UEFA pull them up, they'll just get more expensive lawyers than UEFA can, and they'll just find a wiggle room. There's still cases going on, investigation going on at the moment against Man City around the Premier League. They just make fake companies, and they've got directors that are linked. So it's just dodgy as anything. See, the issue isn't about us paying or who paying. I've got nothing with that. If that was the rules and they were playing within that, absolutely fine. It's like, whoever's got the most money, fine, go crack on. The thing is, it's different now to say when Abramovich first came in, or when Man United were buying all the players. Do you know, they spent within their means. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So with Abramovich, it was one owner, whereas with these, it's states. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you've got literally an unlimited amount of money. I think if we sort of go back to when Neymar went to PSG for 200 million, that was the point when transfers became silly season. You had very average players going for ridiculous amounts of money. And we can make, there's the Kepa for 70, Pepe for 70, Maguire for 80. These are just sort of top of my head. Do you know what I mean? So you get me. So if Neymar's for 200, these guys are suddenly going, right, we're going to go whack up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So the whole thing just, had a knock-on effect from there. Mbappe is a very unique player, because obviously I think it's widely regarded, it is going to be the heir to Messi, and Messi, once he retires, you know what I mean, and he'll be the greatest player in the world. So they kind of hedging all the. So his wages naturally go up, but there always used to be some sort of like a ceiling to wages. There's no ceiling now, because all you'll do is you'll pay him. We'll pay you 500 grand a week, and we'll pay you tax as well. So in effect, you're paying 800 grand a week, which is like, you know what I mean? Firstly, the normal working man or woman will never understand that, and we won't, because it's just a different world. But you kind of used to have a little bit of understanding, moves like 20 grand, 30 grand. You can sort of like understand that. Do you know what I mean? We're now at a stage where the wages have gone through. If I say go back to the Neymar one when it's just ridiculous. So the issue isn't with how much they're paying, which it is for normal people, but I think the issue is how they're funding it and whether they're going beyond financial fair play, which I think it's pretty obvious they are. Because how can you come up with that where you've got one side of the coin, we've got Barcelona who are in a huge amount of debt because of COVID, and they run slightly differently, which is which is a real reality of the situation and how it is. How they're having to get enough Coutinho and Dembele with the sent bought for like 140 million, and that's a knock-on effect. Whereas PSG and Man City will never have that because of this ownership. So that's the issue. So there's no. It's like playing with an unlimited checkbook and unlimited because you don't have to worry about anything. There's no comeback on you. You're absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? So the whole situation is just it leaves a sour taste with a lot of fans, especially those at lower level, because it's not a fair playing field now, and unfortunately that's just where we are.
So obviously we move on to Liverpool next. Liverpool seem to be linked with just as many players as Man United, probably because we've got such a lot of outgoings this year. You think potentially the likes of Oxlade-Chamberlain could be on his way out. Milner's been offered a new contract from what I gather, but I think it might be like a year-to-year situation. Minamino, which is one that I'm not too sure if I'm happy about him going, because he seems to perform well when he does. However, he's just kind of on the periphery. I think if you want to push for that City level, you've got to continually have your second string players to kind of push your first 11, which I don't think he offers. Obviously, Origi's gone. We're looking for quite a few players. I'd probably say a striker, a centre midfielder, and a backup right back. I think that's what Liverpool will probably be looking at. We've been linked with Tchouaméni, Bellingham for quite some time, and obviously we've had some discussions on players that we would like to put across. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on, do you think that those are the targets that Liverpool should be going after, and who you would like to see?
Yeah, I'm probably slightly different to you. Firstly, it looks like Sadio Mane, he wants to go. I've got nothing but absolute respect for what he's done. He's won every single thing at Liverpool he could do at club level. He's going to leave a legend. He's phenomenal, unbelievable. I mean, I don't think there's any adjective. He won a new challenge. I've got, you go without blessings. I think it's a way to do it, and he's absolutely fine. I think there'll be an obviously negotiation. Looks like it's 5 minutes. It's got to be negotiation for us to get to that point and him go, because we are pretty good with our finances. Those players, I think, obviously with Mane gone, we've still got a really strong four. And I think, and what you've got to look at is the durability of those front players as well. Very rarely injured. Do you know what I mean? Salah's very rarely injured. Diaz is very rarely injured. Jota and Firmino's the one probably with a few niggles. Jota's been okay as well, apart from that one injury at Midtjylland where that nothing game. Apart from that, he's been absolutely fine. And then, you've got, I think that'll be the front three. And then obviously Firmino's a backup. I'm thinking if you get another one, I think Minamino's okay, but you're right. It's probably looking at, if we didn't get another four and we stuck with those four and we got a really strong a goal-scoring midfielder, I would actually be happy. But Bellingham's the one I think if we're looking at, but Dortmund have got a thing where they won't sell 2 stars in the same month, the same season, same sort of close season. So they let Sancho go last season, they let Haaland go now, and Bellingham might go next year, but he's quite happy from the reports that I've heard not stay at Dortmund, so that's probably going to go. The Tchouaméni one, I think Real Madrid, it looks like they've just drove the price up that much, that we are very much that club that if we can't afford a club player, we'll just be like, we're gone. Do you know what I mean? We work well within our means, and that's done by FSG, and I think FSG to an extent have got very lucky in that they've had Michael Edwards, who's just nailed every single transfer, and he's got rid of players for extortionate amounts. I mean, I don't know how he's done it, but he has. So the balance in the books and how much we've spent, our net spend, no, is, I think, Michael Edwards has been brilliant. So FSG, I've got lucky with that as well. Right back, I think Joe Gomez is fine as a backup right back, and as a sort of, obviously you can play in centre half as well. I think Ox going is that he's not really played. I don't think he fits into the way we play, because I don't think he retains the ball as well as the other midfielders. sometimes let the ball head down and just drive it like a. Do you know what I mean? So I think he's one. Naby Keita is the one for me, and I've spoken about him before. I struggle to see the benefit of him at Liverpool. I don't, I don't know where the loving for him has come from. He was a player that was voted the best midfielder in Bundesliga, and then we got in the season after him. I'm struggling. He's been here for a few years now. I can't remember a game when he's been brilliant, and I thought, wow. And I just think it's time for him. I think we've got Henderson for being a Thiago our first three, but I do think we need a goal scoring midfielder, because we do rely overly on our front three, which is fine and it's okay. But to get another option to get in there, you know what I mean, and to potentially get a goal, and I think that would help. The ones that have been mentioned, I think if you're asking me, the one, we sort of mentioned it last time as well, was Eriksen. I think we had a chat about this, didn't we? I thought Eriksen at 3, I think would be I think it'd be absolutely perfect for us on that. Just on the right side, got Thiago for being an Eriksen just on the right. I think it retains the ball really well. He's got delivery. He's very much a De Bruyne type player, and you know what I mean. And his quality is unbelievable. It's a tough one, isn't it? But yeah, if you're asking me, I think a really good midfielder, a starting midfield, not like a backup one, but it looks like I think Ox going, Naby Keita going, and happy for them to go. I think Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones are good. I think Harvey Elliott could be, given. I think he's ready to sort of move in and step in as well.
Yeah, I think
we've got a good cover in midfield. I think I've got cover at the back. I think goalkeeper's fine. I would say just if we're being really, really picky, I think a midfielder and then probably like a backup forward. But then I think like I said, Minamino's been fine. I can't remember. He's not in a bad game for him and everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wanted to address Sadio Mane. I think there was a press conference. It's always the same when go away with the national team, and obviously he said a reporter said to him 60 to 70% of Senegalese people want Sadio to leave Liverpool. I don't know how he comes across these numbers. You just get a poll of 10 people walking by. Where do you want him to go? And if they don't say Liverpool, then he wants to leave Liverpool. So I don't know how that is, and he responds in a way that kind of irks you as a Liverpool fan, because we all, for me, Sadio go down as a Liverpool legend. He's not been here in a legendary amount of time. I think it's 6-7 years, but it just feels like he's been with us for so long, and I just think he's got to be careful when he basically acknowledges the fact that I'll do what the Senegalese fans want, which is if they want me to leave, then I'll probably leave. You can't dictate your career by that. Surely that's not what it meant. Surely it was lost in translation, and I hope that is the case. But it does look like we're going to wrap up a lad from Aberdeen. I think he's a right back. So again, that might be coverage for Trent. Again, we do have Gomez there if required, but just doesn't give us that balance, I would say. Gomez is a weird one, because he should be a starting Premier League player, but the reality is he's got 3. I wouldn't say world class. 2 of them are world class in my opinion. Matip and Verge, the young lad that just came in, Canada, unreal future.
I'm going to argue with you there. Forget future now. Do
you think he is there?
I mean, did you watch him against?
Yes. He was better than Verge. He was better than Verge. I mean, Vinicius, he was like, get out of my way. It was like a phenomenal centre half. He was literally the best player on the pitch. Apart from obviously Courtois, I thought he was just, his ball retention, he kept the ball. I mentioned it as well. Yes.
Physically strong, good in the air, quick, good with the ball at his feet. I mean, I think, what did he play? 40, 35? He's already 100 million plus player.
Well, there's arguments to be made that if Gomez hadn't have had the injuries that he would have had, he was accelerating at another different pace. He has different attributes to him. The pace that he has, his ability on the ball, like dribbling, he's brilliant. So he's very unfortunate to be where he's at. Anywhere else, he'd be starting. Any of the other top teams he'd be starting. Move through the team, obviously, we mentioned midfield area. Now, my ideal scenario would be someone like Bellingham, not just because he's English, that English bias or anything like that. He's going to be a top player for a long time to come. He's only 18-year-old. What I like about him, he's got character, and he can speak in front of the press. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. It doesn't matter what happens to him. He just say it out how it is. And I really like that about him. I think he's going to be a future captain material. But if that's not going to happen, there are a couple of players out there for the time being that will improve upon the players that we have. So you think of, Ox, Keita, Milner. Milner, I'd like to keep him around just because he seems like quality for the lads. But if you think of Ox and Keita, I don't know if you've seen their wages recently. They're quite substantial compared to the rest of the squad. If we can get them off the books and, like you said, bring in an Eriksen, I would love to. I know it's not going to happen, but I would love to bring in Gundogan just for the one season.
Yeah.
So those two players added to our squad, I would absolutely love that.
That is the one I was thinking about that the other day. Gundogan, I thought he's not been playing at Man City, and he's obviously got a really good relationship with Klopp, and he's a goal scoring midfield. He just scores goals. I mean, obviously he came home, scored 2 for him against Villa, didn't he? But yeah, no, I just think he's a top, like a really underrated player. I think at the moment it looks like Man City's 3, and I think it's De Bruyne, Rodri, and Bernardo Silva. Yeah. So he's just not going to play unless he's playing. Not going to play a false 9 now. Haaland's there. So yeah, it's how often are you going to play, and if you're happy being on the bench. Well, I don't even know. I mean, I guess it'd be quite expensive. I don't think Man City want to sell him.
Yeah, and the quality upgrade is immense. I think that straight away, and it just takes our squad up to a little bit more of a next level. But I do agree with you that the young lads, maybe Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott, are going to kick on again this season. If they have hope of kicking on, these are the types of players that they won't want coming in. Just your last thoughts on with Liverpool, the forward situation. If there is a forward out there available on our radar, obviously we've been talking about like potentially Nkunku and the Ajax lad Nunes. Do you have a preference over either of those, or is there anyone else that you want to throw in there?
I really like Jared Bowen. Yeah. Because I think we could do with a left-footed right winger. We've only got Mo Salah. Do you know what I mean? Just to give us a bit more balance, because Diaz, Jota they'll generally play on the left anyway. Salah's the only one that can really play. I mean, Jota and Diaz can play on there, but I just think it gives you a bit of different dimension, because we play with inverted wingers, so that's when our fullbacks get that space outside to get the ball. So I just think it's I think Jared Bowen. I know Klopp's a huge fan as well, but they will obviously be that English tax, which is a bit annoying. Ousmane Dembele has been mentioned, and I don't know if he's going to Chelsea or what. And obviously, Barca want to get him off the books. He'd be one I'd be like, I'd really like. But they're the two I'd be looking for. A left-footed wide man. But if there's anyone, it's just tough at Liverpool. You've got to be, there's going to be understanding that you're not going to start every game. Do you know what I mean? I'd say. And now I'd say Salah and Diaz are probably the only ones that are going to be guaranteed to start, and then you're probably playing for one place. Yeah, I mean, I know Dybala's leaving Juve on a free, but it looks like he's going to win and he's not talking to anyone else. So there are, players about, and the wages that are being discussed as well. So we're going to struggle to match those wages as well. Yeah. And it's just, So, I mean, it's a bit of what I will say is I trust our recruitment team more than anything. So even what I think whoever they get, I'll be like, absolutely fine. They bought Tsimikas, and I was like, why don't we just pay the extra $2 million for Jamal Lewis? Lewis is like shit in League One now or something. Tsimikas is challenging Robertson to start, because Tsimikas has been brilliant this season. He's been really underrated for us. So I think I'll be whoever we get. I think, and I trust the management and the recruitment more than anything. So whoever they decide, if they decide to go with no one, I'd still be happy. Do you know what I mean? Because this team is literally, don't forget what this team just done. You know what I mean? Yeah. All the way through. So let's not just think, we've seen Man City we've seen Aston Villa get a load of players. Man United have got a new manager. Don't get caught up in that, because we're very sort of clear, and we have a clear strategy of what we want to do and how we want to do it. And I would trust our team. Yeah, in the past we've had trust issues, but it's something that's long gone. They know a lot more than us. So it's good that that's in place. It's almost like you set it up for me, Dembele. That moves us nicely onto Chelsea. Obviously, they're potentially, I say potentially, they're going to lose Lukaku. They want to lose Lukaku. Lukaku will want to get lost back to Inter Milan. I don't know why that transfer ever happened. I'm pretty sure he's wondering the same. And they're looking at Dembele. Now, I do like Dembele. It just seems like he has quite a few injury problems. But when he is fit, he does look like a player. What do you think of Chelsea's activity? Do you think, what do they need? So... They need a defender, or it's defenders. They've lost Rudiger, who's gone to Real Madrid. They've lost Christensen, who's gone to Barcelona. You left with Thiago Silva, and Azpilicueta hasn't been playing the last few games, so he's obviously getting on. I mean, Thiago's 37, 38. Aspilicueta's not far off that.
Sar's not at the level.
Sar's nowhere near at the level. Do you know what I mean? So he seems to have more wing backs than he's got centre halves, which is a bit strange. So I think that defenders absolutely. There's the question mark over Kante's fitness, because I know Tuchel's mentioned it a few times. Kante is our Salah, our Van Dijk, but he only plays 30-40% of the games, which is our issue. Do you know what I mean? So there's that. There's obviously the question. Chelsea seem to have a million number 10s as well, stroke wide men, like your Ziyech, Pulisic, Havertz, Mount. Do you know what I mean? There's so many of them. There's Werner. You know, there seem to be quite an unbalanced squad. So I think that might be a case of getting rid of some of them. They've only got 3 centre midfielders really in Jorginho, Kovacic, and Kante. I guess Loftus-Cheek's done okay, but he still doesn't trust him. I don't think completely in the really, really big games. Unless there's injuries like. So I think they need some centre halves. There was talk of Dembele, but I'm like thinking, why are you going to get Dembele when you've mentioned all those 10s and wide players? You've already got a lot of players that are similar profile to him anyway.
Yeah. It's
just sort of like you're getting in the habit of just buying a player because he's available. Do you know what I mean? And that's not the great way. That's not the best way to go as a club. So I'm interested. That would be one club, because obviously the transfer, the ownership issue has been sorted now, and Bowley's lot as the bottom, aren't they? So that's been done. So I'm interested to see how and what sort of their strategy is, because I can't imagine it'll be a Bramwich like, and I'll fund everything. I'd imagine there'll be more going down the FSG route. But again, that's probably just me being stereotypical because they're American. And I'm not entirely sure how they deal with stuff back in LA. So that's just, an unknown. And, you'd imagine they'd want to sort of, if they need defenders. So it's like how they're going to do it and what they're going to do with that. What about you? How do you see Chelsea?
Yeah, they seem to have lost a few. They're going to be losing a few of their higher ups, the people that process the signings, things of that ilk. I totally agree with you on. You can never really. I couldn't really think of what Chelsea's best team is, because I don't know if they know what the best team is, because they don't consistently have 11. If you had all of Liverpool's players fit, you could, most of the season you could predict what Liverpool's team is going to be. Whereas Chelsea, I feel like like you say, it's very unbalanced. Sometimes the formations are changing in and out. The midfielders, they're not as I want to say healthy as ours. You can guarantee that the likes of Salah, Mane, and Court are going to be fit, but you will never know if Pulisic or Mount or what's the lad, Werner will come in, or the injured. You just don't know with them, and they just always seem to struggle with signing strikers. It's been something for a good time. Every now and again they'll come across a Diego Costa or Didier Drogba. But number 9.
You're right. They've had a lot more failures than successes. You got Torres, Shevchenko, obviously now Lukaku as well. There was someone else as well. These are the top players they're going.
These are players that should never be failures. So it's so easy for us to say that Haaland is going to be a success. Obviously it's a different club. Pep's, he's his own man. He makes things work. He's very good on the coaching pitch, but it's just not as straightforward as buying a world-class player. Like, how good was Shevchenko back in the day when we were, when he was like gone to Chelsea?
Do you know the other one? Crespo went to Chelsea, didn't he? And he was. And I'll tell you something. I remember at the time, and I was sort of just starting in sort of looking at football in more of a tactical, analytical sort of way. And I remember someone telling me, some really top coach said to me, he said, watch Crespo's movement. It was the best centre forward movement in the world. And I watched it was like when you could watch like your fan.
Yeah, player cam, yeah.
Right. He just never stopped. His movement was just phenomenal. He never got the ball, and you don't see it because you obviously as a fan, if he was watching it the game, just watching the ball is. His movement was phenomenal, and then the goals that he scored. If you watched his movement, his sharp run across the front post, everything was phenomenal. Yeah. The one player at the moment who I think in the world of football is probably as close to him as anyone else is Cavani. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but Cavani's movement's brilliant as well. Crespo was one brilliant player at Chelsea that just didn't actually work out. And you do go through Chelsea. You take Drogba out. Costa was okay. Drogba and Costa, I'm struggling to see who else has been a real success at Chelsea. Whereas Liverpool, you could probably say every centre forward we've bought has been a success. We just want to. Whereas we've had some really shit keepers.
Exactly.
It's just funny how it works.
Yeah, but with the rest of the team, you've got like you said, they've got to fill in that centre back, and I think we're talking about is it Kunde from Sevilla?
Kunde Sevilla,
Yeah, so he'd be a good signing, but in a sense of you've still got Thiago Silva. He's not going to play on forever, as quality as he is. So they're going to have to replace him eventually. So it's going to be difficult for Chelsea to, I don't want to say mount a challenge. I want to say sustain a challenge more than anything else next season. I still think they'll finish top 4, but I just can't see them actually challenging for the title next year because of those reasons.
I think they'll have a real challenge next year to fight off Spurs for 3rd.
Yeah.
I think just to take some of the Spurs quite well. I think Conte's he's got Perisic in, which is something Spurs wouldn't normally do. They wouldn't buy someone who's 33 years old. Mm-hmm. I think Daniel Levy's realised we've got one of the best in the world, and we're just going to have to let him get who he wants. Give him
control.
Yeah, give him. And they've got Patrick, who's the sporting director, or football director, whatever they call him, who's obviously got a close relationship with Conte, and Daniel Levy's sort of like allowing him to be a bit more flexible too. And the fact they got it in the Champions League helps a lot as well. So Spurs, I think Spurs' front 3 is as good as anything that is out there.
Yeah.
And they got Lucas Moura as backup as well. So I think forwards they're absolutely fine. I think there's a player that's been underlooked. Is that a word? I'm making it a word. Has been underlooked this season because of his previous performances, and that's been Eric Dyer, who I think's been brilliant since Antonio Conte's taken over.
Yeah.
I think you play him as a front back 3 in the centre of that back 3. He's been brilliant. His distribution's always been really good. But his positional sense and his actual ability just to defend and get rid has been top notch. And Conte's coached that into him. So Conte's one of those players where you come in and he improves players. You've got Kristian Romero, who's going to be a world. I watched him on Wednesday night, by the way, when I went to the IMT. Unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? He's one of those defenders who's just a bit of a. I'm not going to use that word on the podcast, but a bit of a twat. And he's got that nasty edge to him, but he loves defending.
Yeah.
Hey, you want in your team. And then you've got Ben Davies, who's improved massively. I mean, who would have thought Ben Davies was? I mean, the balance, it's almost like his perfect position for Ben Davies. He's not good enough for a modern day fullback. He's not quite good enough for centre half, but he's in that just outside of outside of a back 3, where he can play. He's got the obviously good on the ball. It gives him a bit more space and time. And I've managed and coached a 3-5-2 system. And what I realised when I was coaching, something I didn't realise when I'm watching him playing, your outside centre halves have the ball so much, and they've got to be good in the ball, because they're the ones that are always your outballs. Because the wing backs are always going to be up against either a full back or a wide back.
Yeah.
And then you've got your outside centre halves, because they're in a sort of weird place, and you're watching them and you're thinking they've got to be good in the ball. So you always watch the players with a 3-5, the teams with a 3-5-2, the outside centre halves are either A, really good at dribbling with the ball, or be really good at driving with the ball. So Rudiger was really good in the outside of the back 3 because he used to drive with the ball in space. So I think Eric Dyer massively underlooked, but I think moving forward, I think Spurs are still looking to improve, and Conte will have his targets, and they'll be getting those players in and starting. I do think Lloris has got a rick in him. I think he's coming towards the end of his career. I think there needs to be another keeper in there for him. I also think they need another good midfielder, because I think Højbjerg and Bentancur are good. But then you've got Skip and Winks, who, come on, they're not, this year shouldn't really be playing for a top 4 team, anywhere near a top 4 team as English.
They need a Christian Eriksen.
Yeah, they do.
I think everybody needs a Christian Eriksen at the minute.
Everyone does. The issue with that is the way, I mean, everyone mentioned Spurs get Eriksen. It's not going to work, because Eriksen was at Inter Milan when Conte was there. Conte didn't play him. He was on the bench, because the way Conte plays, his midfielders have got to have a very specific profile. Eriksen doesn't do that much coming back. Or he's not very good in blocking those positions to give his back 3 cover and protection, because they'll play with a 2. So Højbjerg and Bentancur very much, and you need to be a certain profile of midfield to fit in there. Eriksen's going to come and end up being on the bench, and he'll know Conte, the manager, I'm not going there. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's got to be a bit of a awareness of who you're wanting, and managers, the style and profile of play that managers want, and whether they fit into the system as well.
Yeah, I bet you a lot of Spurs fans would have told you before Conte came in that they needed new centre-backs, new midfielders, new everything. But sometimes it is that you just need a good coach. You just need, there's a player there that you need to get out of it. And I feel like, you know, that's what obviously the best coaches that come in and do. Like you said, Ty has been absolutely brilliant. They've saved what 40, 50 million already just on a centre back for his position. So they kind of turn their attention to other players. There was just a couple of players that came in and done well. I can't think of it. They were actually on loan. Is it Kulusevski?
Kulusevski's the one so Kulusevski and Bentancur came in, didn't they?
Yeah.
As well. But they're getting Bentancur, who's been top notch for 18 million. Like,
yes.
If he would, I mean, Harry Winks is going to cost you 40 million because he's English, but he's nowhere near the Bentancur. The whole English tax premium thing it blows my mind. But yeah, so they've got Kulusevski who's been top notch. I mean, at Juve, they got him in, and he just never seemed to get a goal. And he was sort of Dybala sometimes played out wide there, and it was just a trick. But Kulusevski was really, really good.
And so say they managed to keep those players in. They managed to keep Kane, which I think they will, because I think there's not too many other clubs that you know, they have the space for him now. Essentially, you know, you think with Man City, Sam Haaland, unless he goes abroad, but I think he wants to beat that Alan Shearer record. I think that's, you know, that's one of his incentives for staying in England. There's not too many clubs available for Harry Kane. He does seem happy there. My question to you is, obviously, they made Champions League. Do they have enough to mount a challenge next year?
No, just a bit short, I think. Just a little bit short, because I just think there are certain areas where if they got, I won't even say even with their best 11, they're going to struggle. Because when they play Liverpool and Man City, it's obviously very a set way of playing, defensive counter. They're not going to dominate enough games for me, I think. They're not going to win enough games, I should say, to finish. And I just think the gap between, I think it's almost like Liverpool, Man City, big gap to Chelsea, big gap to everyone else. I think they almost need to get to that Chelsea level first.
Yes.
I think that's what I mean, because I think you can't just jump from getting, what do they get, 60 points to 90 points, you know what I mean? So it's a big jump from there. And I think it's, I think it's little sort of, you've got to bridge those gaps, you know, in some sort of systematic way. And I don't think we can make the big jump in one fell swoop.
So Arsenal next. I'm managing to actually go down the league at the moment. Arsenal, they've managed to keep hold of Nketiah, but obviously they have lost Lacazette. They seem like they've got quite a bit of transfer business to do. Yeah, they've been linked with Gabriel Jesus. I'm not sure whether that's a good move for the player himself, you know, considering where he was at. But then again, they are a high-profile club. They are playing in Europe. I was just wondering your thoughts on, you know, what they need, and obviously Lacazette, what you thought of his time there. I think he got a 1 in 4. That was his ratio that he worked out as a striker.
Lacazette's a funny one. I always thought, whenever I watched him play, I always thought he played well as a good forward.
I thought he always played well against us.
Yeah, he played well against us. That's probably it. He played well against us. But I mean, you're saying they've kept Nketiah. I mean, come on. Kept. I don't know about kept being the right. I don't know about kept being the opposite word. I'm sort of thinking more like Arsenal was stuck with him because they didn't have another centre forward.
Yeah, well, they also managed to.
17-year-old kid from the academy. Do you know what I mean?
They also managed to keep Mohamed Elneny as well. So yeah, your thoughts on that?
That's what Arsenal. I mean, we talk about where Arsenal need improvement. I mean, Cedric Suarez isn't a Premier League footballer anymore. You can say what you. Tomiyasu is okay. But even then, I'd say he's okay. He started well, and he's sort of like, gone off a bit. Kieran Tierney, I mean, White, Gabriel Tierney, top notch. Ramsdale, absolutely fine. Midfield, still an issue. I mean, Granit Xhaka, I mean, as much as he's saying, he's not. You can't suddenly change the way who you are, you know, for having done the same thing for a number of years. So no, not having that. Nicolas Pepe is the one for me. The 70 million you spend when you don't have a huge amount of money anyway, bonkers. The shining light for them is the three I mentioned, the three in the keeper I mentioned at the back. So your centre halves and Tierney and Ramsdale, and then you got your Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Martinelli. They're the sort of 7 that I'm looking at. I'm thinking that's where you need to go on it, and that's the future, and that's where it's looking okay. Centre forward, Gabriel Jesus, I think it makes a really good sense because you've obviously got Martinelli and Gabriel, who are Brazilians, that link and connection, obviously London as well, and he'll be starting every game. Unfortunately, at Man City, he doesn't. He's very in and out, isn't he? So I think if you're asking me where they need to go, midfield and obviously a centre forward, I think they're sort of covered in that 10 and those wide midfield positions. I think they're okay. They're better than okay there. I think they've got some real talent there. I think sort of midfield is more than anything. What about yourself? How do you say it?
Well, I think Arsenal are in a similar-ish position to Man United in the way that their fringe players don't hold much value, so they can't, recoup maybe what they've shelled out on them to a point where they can't reinvest that money. So I think it's going to be difficult for them because they're not a notoriously good spending side, but I think this is a proper season for Arteta, like a proper, you kind of forgiving him not forgiving him, you give him a pass for the first season. I think now, is he now into his second full season? Yeah. I think that's about right. So this is where he's going to be judged because now it's becoming his team. And I'm like you, I think they've got a good goalkeeper. Centre back, I'm not too sure they've got a commanding centre back there yet. They're looking at Jed Spence at right back. That for me is a good signing, but it's not where it's not your priority in my opinion. Again, a strong midfielder, Granit Xhaka. I do not know how he survived this long at Arsenal. Everyone, but I've heard he's playing well recently, and Well's not good enough. He's just not an Arsenal player. It's not what you associate when we were kids of an Arsenal player. And yeah, you're right. And then Kedia, they just need a centre forward. I'm not going to say an Aubameyang mold, but they just need a new centre forward. And I don't want to say it.
I've got a question for you. Does Arteta survive next season?
No, I just about to say it. I don't want to say it because you almost feel like you're going to get proven right eventually. But right now you just look like you're salty. But for me, Arteta is not the manager that you want right now. He may go on. I expect Arteta to be in like a mid to top 5 Spanish Liga type manager. And then, he comes along, he earns his stripes, and then he comes along. But for some reason, he's just been thrusted into this Arsenal job. And when he does great, everyone's just giving him all the plaudits. And then when he does bad, he can't own up to it. He can't realise his own faults. And I just don't. That's something I can't warm to him about. I really like Arsenal. I just don't like the manager. And for me, the biggest change that needs to happen is the manager, but that's just so easy to say. So lastly, we'll move on to United, and maybe we might cover anything else that might come along the way. But United, obviously, that's a project. It's a project in itself. You've got Pogba, the one that's just probably the biggest headline at the moment. Man United fans are dreaming about every different type of scenario of players that they're going to sign, but in reality, you've just lost a £80 million asset for again. And again, they just don't have for nothing, and they don't have any kind of their fringe players don't hold any real value. So again, it's on the owners to dip into. I think how many players went this week? Maybe 4 or 5. Still got like to Phil Jones. So yeah, just your thoughts on Paul Pogba, and I was, what I'm going to ask you. Would you have took Paul Pogba at Liverpool? Bear in mind the Juventus stint. Bear in mind where he has the the industrial midfielders around him, and bear in mind France. Paul Pogba.
Yes, I've said it before. He's been Man United's best player for a number of years. The issue with such an easy scapegoat. And people just jumped on that. It's obviously started. Graham just doesn't play. He's always nailing into him. I just think Paul Pogba massively underrated in his performance. People calling him a flop, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's people that don't know the game. The interesting thing is Guardiola actually had a meeting with Pogba to come to Man City as well. So that's a conversation. I mean, Atletico reporting it. The conversation was had. Pogba was keen. His only issue was he didn't know how the fans and media would take it, and he wanted a break from the British media as well because he's just been lambasted throughout. So if Guardiola thinks he's good enough to go in that midfield, I absolutely know he would have been good enough to play in our midfield as well. He's been playing in a Man United team, with all due respect, have been pretty shit for the last couple of times. They've had no identity. He's had no idea where he's playing. Some games he's playing as a 4, sometimes he's playing as a 6, sometimes he's playing as an 8, sometimes playing as a 10, sometimes he's playing on the wide left. Do you know what I mean? You ask him where he's had no idea what he's playing. You get him the ball. Some of the stuff he done was just like phenomenal. Paul Pogba is a top player. And wherever he goes next, he will showcase that next year in the Champions League again. And Man United fans will, oh, if only he played like that for us. Well, yeah, he's around a structure and a framework which works for him, and he understands it. It's clear. So let's not nail Pogba too much. I am absolutely, Pogba, quality footballer. I would have taken him in a heartbeat if he was, coming there. Imagine him sticking him, Fabinho, Pogba, Thiago across that midfield. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? The balance and quality that's amongst there. It frustrates me. I mean, it's weird, me, a Liverpool fan, defending a Man United player. And I've said it for a while. He's Man United's best player, but he's gone now, hasn't he? So, and I do think for his own sanity and his career, it's good that he leaves the country, because it's been such an easy scapegoat.
Yeah, he's not what Man United needed at the time, was he? It often felt like he dallied on the ball, took too long on the ball, but the reality is, the reason why he's holding onto the ball is because he's afraid that he's not going to get it back.
Yeah, or the next player's not made the move. Or
it's not on. Yeah,
it was watching Man United play over the last few years. It's been very much like they're playing off the cuff. It's like me and the side. I'm you're kind of hoping something happens. You know what I mean? They're passing the ball out. That we didn't practice that. Well, that's just off the cuff, a bit of magic, something will happen. So that's what you're sort of like hoping for with him when he's like, there's no making the run. The question I'd ask, we mentioned this regularly. We had Lewis on as well, as a big Man United fan. Wan-Bissaka is obviously being told now that he can leave. It's mad, and it's taken a manager how many years, and we've seen it for years, to say he's just not very good in the ball. And I remember a conversation I had. I was on an A license sort of stepping day at St. Louis Park, and there was a coach there, and he was saying, "Oh, Wan-Bissaka's better than Trent," and I'm thinking, I'm gone here. I'm really gone here. So I looked at this one. I said, I don't even know what I'm doing here. What is this? What it means getting in? I'm like, fucking, the game's mad. So 1-1, right? I look at his 1-1 defending, and that is now against that. That's very basic way of looking at as a fullback. Modern day fullbacks, you've got to do everything. Do you know what I mean? So if you are going to be playing in a low block and defending all the time, which Palace were, and you've got to defend all the time, and that's it. You get it ball and you kick it. Absolutely, that's what you play. Man United, you want to be one of the top teams. Unfortunately, you've got to have the ball a lot and look to create, and your fullbacks so Wan-Bissaka gone, absolutely, that's something we spoke about earlier. What are your thoughts about the centre forwards now? I don't know, is Cavani left? Or Ronaldo's 38, Cavani's 36.
Cavani's left. Yeah.
What's going on? Is Ronaldo even going to stay? Is he?
It sounds like he's going to stay.
I know. I don't. That for me as a new manager, I'd have got to be like, Ronaldo, off you go. See you. Make a real mark, and you want to start with building for the future. You're thinking about your career. Ronaldo might be gone next season. Probably will be gone next season. Do you know what I mean? I just think, is he going to be? If things aren't going well, is he going to sulk? Is Ronaldo going to be the headline again? You want to give yourself the best possible chance. Get rid of Maguire or remove his strictest captaincy. See if Leicester want him back. Let Ronaldo go. Marcus Rashford, what are you doing with your life? Sort it out. If you don't want to play, go somewhere else. But I think he's sort of, get him down. Jadon Sancho, let's get him playing like he did at Dortmund. There's loads of different things. In midfield, you obviously need to look at what you're going to do. Fernandes is going to play, what formation you play. You can play as a flat three and play with a holding midfield and 2 8s. You can play with 2 6s and a 10. What's the makeup of your three? You can play with 3 at the back. So there's all these different questions that are there. You don't want to just sort of go from left to right, just confuse the players even more.
I would so it sounds like Ronaldo's staying, and I think that's probably the first thing that I've heard from United since Ten Hag's came in that I disagree with. The things I do agree with are the players that he's got rid of. He's done it well. He's done so far so good in getting rid of the players, but then again, I suppose the contracts are kind of up, so that's all. It was a foregone conclusion. But Solskjaer had done a good job of that, whittling down certain crap players, and then he had to work with what he had from there. That's the only thing I'll give him credit for. But for me, I would completely write off this season as a whole. It's just kind of a season of improvement. You are going to get so many different players in that need to come in and do a job. It's going to be virtually impossible for, I think, them to push for a top 4 place. So you just want to start afresh. You just want to get rid of Ronaldo for me. The only reason I keep him around because United don't have any kind of leaders. They don't have a single leader amongst them. You think through the whole team. You talk about Maguire as the captain. If he's the captain, you are very much in trouble. So that's the only reason I'd keep Ronaldo around. Obviously, he's world class wherever he goes, but he's not going to fit this new era of Manchester United that he's going to want to implement, and it only undermines what he's about to do. And I can't see that working out. Like you say, I would just blood the young ones. I would just play the lads that you've just said there. He's got to bring in some centre midfielders like Man United had to have done for so long. Scott McTominay should be out the door immediately. He is not at that level. And they're talking about De Jong, and it's the difficulty that United have at the moment is they've never been in this situation where they have got to convince players to come to Man United, and that's never a situation that you want to be in, because players then only come for the wrong reasons. Back in the day, players would take wage cuts just to come to Manchester United because it was Man U. But these days, you're going to have to convince people to come. And De Jong wants to stay at Barcelona.
I think it's an interesting thing you said. So Man United at the moment, Man United fans won't like to admit it, but the rest of the world, they're a second-tier club at the moment. Mm-hmm. Not a second-tier club, second-tier team. So players now would need a reason to go to Man United. And that reason would be money. Unfortunately, that's just it. There's no other reason. They're not going to be. So if a player comes where they've got Man City, Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, these teams, Bayern Munich, PSG, Man United would not be winning that race. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll find those. So the top players, you look at your Haalands and Mbappes and stuff. Man United would never be in the conversation here at the moment, because that's just where they're at. And you've got to sort of think more longer term. So it might be a case of getting players like Frankie de Jong in, but paying them more, but then sort of improving the team whilst they're there. And then when you're in the Champions League and Challenger, then you can get those players and you get the feel that Man United are back to where they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, it's a process. Well, yeah, just to finish off, I just want to mention, I want to throw two clubs at you. Aston Villa, who seem to have done their transfers quite early and done some really good stuff, and Newcastle as well. Thoughts on them too?
Yeah, Aston Villa. I like what Stevie's doing there, but that's because they finished the season so poorly. They massively underperformed towards the end of the season. The likes of Tyrone Mings. God, how long that guy is still playing in that team. Go on.
I was going to say, when they asked why didn't Liverpool win the Premier League, I said Tyrone Mings' first touch. That's my default answer. Yeah, Tyrone Mings' first touch. Yeah, let's not talk about it anymore. But Coutinho, they've obviously got in. Diego Carlos, they've got in as well. There's talks about getting Yves Bissouma, who I think I'd be shocked if he goes to Villa. Yeah. With all due respect, Villa's fine, but Bissouma should be like a top 4 player. I think him for Spurs, absolutely perfect in that too. Any other, I think he can do a job. He'd be doing a job at any team in the league. I think he's that good. So Villa really, I think it was interesting. Stevie said as well that they just wanted to get their transfers done, business done whilst everyone was sleeping, which has got an element of truth to it as well.
Yeah,
so not faffing about in August. It's got everyone ready. Said I'll have pre-season with all my team and we'll know what we're doing. So Newcastle one for you. Thoughts on that? That's an interesting one, up by your neck of the woods.
Yeah, obviously they're going to be linked with everyone, just the whole rebuilding process. But he's not daft, Eddie Howe. He's not going to. Fans are it's so easy for fans to be like, right, we've got all this money and we want to spend it on this particular type of player, this A-list type player. But the reality is, very few players are willing to be the Robinho, who is, at the peak of his playing powers and who wants to come to, a club that's on the up. They want to already be, they don't want to be there at the start. They want to be there, when everything's kicking off. For me, Eddie Howe has just got to continue the way that he's going at the moment. I've got to be honest with you, I don't know the players that Newcastle are linked with at the moment, but the likes of the Gabriel Jesus's of the world, I think those are the types that they need to be aiming at. That's kind of the ceiling for them at the moment, I think. Beyond that, you're going to be struggling. At that point, you're in the same situation as Man United, where you're kind of buying players' loyalty. You're buying players to perform. You're paying a wage to perform as opposed to their own personal pride. You want those players, maybe like not Richarlison, the lad from Leeds on the right wing. I like it. Yeah, Rafinha.
It looks like he's going to Barca, doesn't he? So, but yeah.
Yeah, so those are the type of players that I would be aiming for, and I'm pretty sure that Eddie Howe is more than capable of managing that ship, not jumping to that next level that you would expect Man United will be trying to aim for. What about yourself on Newcastle?
Yeah, there's a couple of players that have been, again, it's rumoured, in it. You don't know for certain, but Dean Henderson coming in for, as a keeper for them. I think Jamal Lascelles needs to get binned off. He's not a good enough player. He's nowhere near good enough Premier League player, but I was at Newcastle, whatever. I think Chris Wood, obviously now Callum Wilson's back. Chris Wood, I think, is going to be a backup. There's obviously talk of, I think, is it Nketiah or Tek, someone, a French centre forward from, I think it's Lyon. Might be wrong, but so from the French league anyway. So they're looking at getting, someone like that in. And yeah, I think Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, Shelby, good midfielder, probably not. And even Sean Longstaff's done all right when he's coming. Then you got Sam Maximan, and so there's not a huge amount. I mean, they probably need, they obviously need a few more players. I think the first 11 get into this struggle. They'll have Kieran Trippier back as well for next season. I forgot all about him. He was brilliant when he first started. So there's loads of good positives there for them, and I think they've performed really well since Eddie Howe took over. So I'd be really positive if I was a Newcastle fan moving forward.
I just want to ask you a quick question before we go. Where do you expect Newcastle to be aiming for next season?
I think 10 to sort of 6 would be for me. Maybe I'd say I'd expect them to finish 12th to 6th. But I'd say they should be, depending on who they get, is whether they sort of really push for that champ for Europe. I think Newcastle's next step will be Conference League or a Europa League. And do you know what I mean? Make that once they're in there, and then you can see, the fans have been. I mean, my mate who knows the season ticket over there, and the fans are just absolutely they're brilliant. And I think they do deserve that. And there's obviously it's a huge uplift amongst. I mean, the conversation we're having about Man City and PSG, I think we might be having with Newcastle in a few years' time as well. Yes. But at the moment, that's just a different podcast and the conversation. But yeah, no, I think sort of they should be looking to get into that Conference League sort of 10 to sort of 6, 7. That'll be. I mean, it's gonna be tough because there's some teams coming up there as well. But I think I can't see any reason why if they make the right signings why they shouldn't be looking to sort of really challenge Arsenal for their position. Yeah. Arsenal, West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got a top manager and they've got a manager who I feel is more refreshed now. Has got a clear identity and more muscle in the transfer market.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, spot on. So as always, we end the podcast with a question of the week. Do you have one, or do you want me to?
No, I've got one. I've got one as well. But just before the question of the day, we do say, if you've got this far, you listen to us. There must be something that we say that you like. So do us this favor, click on that like, subscribe, share it with friends and family. You never know, they might like us, and if they do, that'll be great. So, question of the day today from me is: who would you like your club to buy in this summer's transfer window? You can be realistic. You don't have to be realistic, but either way, just let us know. Stick it in the comments below, and we do respond to every single comment. So that'd be great.
Yeah, and before we finish, in a word, who is your player
that I'd like us to buy?
Yes.
We'll see, don't we? Are we going realistic or anyone?
We're going realistic. I'm going Bellingham.
Yeah, I'd go Bellingham. That'd be my realistic one. Bellingham, yeah. Bellingham or maybe Dembele, but yeah, Bellingham. I think Bellingham. I think we could do with another top forward. But yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, like, subscribe, comments, all that good stuff down below. Thanks for watching, guys.
See you guys.